Hey everybody, this video is going to show you how you can start to paint in your middle and your foreground. This would be your second layer of paint. I've already got all of my colors mixed and I have my 2 cups of water, one for my first wash and one for my second wash. So to start off, in my background here, as I was looking at my collage, I changed what we call the opacity of the paint. That's the amount of light that shines through and how you can thin down your paint. So I added more water back here. I'm gonna have less water because things that are closer to the foreground, like this here, is gonna be brighter and more concentrated in color. So before I get started, I just want to take a look at my collage and find some common areas of color, because rather than just going in and mixing it right away, for example, I've got my green here and I've got my green here, I'm going to reserve that green and then bring in the green to this middle section here so that I can keep that without having to constantly mix new green. Make sure though, a couple tips is that you mix enough paint so that you don't have to remix it again, because matching colors can take quite a while. All right, so what I'm gonna do then is start to paint in my middle ground. And you'll notice here, this color is a little bit of a lighter green. So is a lighter green a tint or a shade? It's a tint, right. So when we're adding that color to the white, it's gonna thin it, make it a little bit lighter. Again, I'm gonna always bring my light color down first and bring your darker color into your lighter color. So make sure that you wash off your brush before you grab new paint so that I'm not gonna mix it into. And then another tip is to swirl your brush so you can get all of that paint off of it. And then I'm gonna mix that in. This is a good way to test your color, is by actually taking your paint, once it's been fully mixed, and just paint it onto your collage. You see how that's almost the same color? It's probably got a little bit more blue in here than this green has. So I could add just a tidbit of blue just to bring it to that. But that's one tip to mix your colors, is to ensure that it's gonna match directly on your collage. Okay, one other thing is I can add a little bit of water to my brush just to make sure that my paint flows a little bit better. So using the flat edge of your brush, I'm gonna go right up to the edge like this. Right up to the edge. I like to paint the edges first and then go on the inside from there. Make sure that you have control over your brush and that you are pulling your brush rather than pushing it. If you're pushing it, then your brush starts to spread apart. Not really good for your brush. Now, even though I already have this green mixed here, and I see that my green is here, I'm gonna wait to paint the very front of that green because I wanna avoid moving my hand back. I wanna bring my hand forward from the front back. So then I can look over here and I have this kind of blue and green right here on my collage, and you'll notice that this green kind of matches those greens here. So I'm gonna show you how you can blend a color next. So I'm gonna take the rest of my green here. I'm gonna paint the tops of these different shapes. You see that okay? Yeah. And then there's a little bit of green right here. So I'm gonna paint that in. Okay, now this brush might get a little bit too big to get into some of those details, so I'm gonna make sure that I wash it once, wash it twice, put it to the side. Now I'm gonna grab what's called the filbert brush. Filbert brush tends to be rounded. This is really good for smaller details and to go into curved edges. So this green, it's a very similar tone as the blue that we have here. So I don't have to actually clean that up. I can just add some blue directly into that. Because it's already a tint, it's already going to become a light blue. And again, I want to make sure that I'm testing my color, matching it to my collage, which is what I just did here. All right, maybe a little bit off, but I'm going to show you how you can blend that color next. So I'm going to add that blue down here and making sure that this paint is still wet on my brush. I'm then just going to dip my paint into my water, kind of spin it on my palette, and then I'm going to kind of go from the top and just start to bring it down, okay? I can always go back in and take a little bit of that previous green. All right, you can see here that we're starting to get that blended effect, right? So as I continue to build these darker blues, I can just build right on the paint that I've already mixed here. I don't have to constantly grab new paint and clean this off. You can just layer it right on top and then again work to try to match the color. That's a little bit more purpley, so I'm gonna add a little bit of that purple here. Okay, you see how by bringing that cool down, it made my blue much different. Now obviously everybody has different colors and different needs for their own painting. And this is of
course our first layer from our base, so we're going to always add more layers on top of this. And you'll notice how it goes from light to medium to dark. Sorry, light to medium to dark to medium to light again, okay? So I'm going to make sure that I get this medium color in those areas. Use a little bit of water. Start to blend the paint. And then I can build up it slightly darker. And again, you'll notice that there's some areas that are lighter on top of my colors. I'm going to build that on after having painted this background, okay? So again, I'm going to clean up all this paint, bring it into one spot again, spin my brush so I can get as much off, and I need to add a little bit more blue to this, and a little bit of purple, and this is what's going to make my kind of cooler blue.
And then I can paint that in here. And then I'm going to grab some water and start to blend that together. What you want to do is constantly assess the color that you've made on your painting, compare it to your collage. If you squint, that can help kind of determine, is this the right contrast is at the right darkness. After letting it dry, you can better determine that too. So now that I've already got this paint mixed here, I'm gonna go in and start to fill in some of those other areas where I see that that is that same color. And rather than getting rid of that and cleaning it up, I'm gonna set that to the side so I can fill that in some of these other areas, okay? Do the work of mixing your paint once, set it aside so that you can always build up to it. So I'm gonna continue to paint, but you can just watch this as I'm doing that, okay?